Quirin. Now then, you've got a wonderful surname as well. So you've got a German Christian name and Quirin Schweighofer. Did I get those quite right? But not too bad.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Well
Oh,
done.
wonderful. Well, Quirin, you're the co-CEO and co-founder of Australia's accommodation innovator, MadeComfy. Now, there's two words here that I picked up in the briefing about you, okay? Innovator and disruptor. Aren't those wonderful words in today's sort of the world in which we live? We need innovators to make things work, and we need disruptors to change all these things, you know, because like so many people have sat back and expected things to happen the way they always had. And it's impossible to imagine a bigger disruptor to the world in which we live than COVID-19, isn't it? It's just quite incredible. So tell me, why do you consider yourself an innovator, and why do you consider yourself not only a disruptor, but a multi-award winning disruptor?
No, thank you. I think the introduction was fantastic. I couldn't have done this any better myself. So thank you. Really appreciate that. Look, I think those are very strong buzzwords, and it's sometimes a bit dangerous to sort of use those words and just think that's then let's just be a bit more innovative, let's be a bit more disruptive. But at the end, I think it really depends on the market you're in, the vision you have, and what you think you do different, and where you see this kind of problem that no one else sees, or where you see that kind of solution that no one else sees. And if you are the only one really seeing that and sort of like swimming against the current for a long time, then you are maybe a little bit of an innovator, and a disruptor. You're then once the flow changes and suddenly everyone else swims against the current, and then of course in hindsight you're a disruptor. I think at MadeComfy we simply have our vision to be Australia's most loved short-term rental brand, and to really provide extraordinary experiences to guests.
Now repeat that again. Australia's most loved
short-term rental brand.
Australia's most loved short-term rental brand. Okay, rental brand. Okay, we got it. So that's what MadeComfy is. It's a short-term rental brand, is it?
Correct. I mean, like maybe 10 years ago, short-term rentals were, you wouldn't know what a short-term rental is. It's thanks to Airbnb, bit more known these days, but especially COVID, I think, has put this all forward, because it's simply a different type of accommodation that is solving a specific need of people.
Okay, so how does MadeComfy work in the short-term rental space then?
So the way we work, we manage properties, either certain blocks from property developers or single properties from investors, and we manage them on a short-term rental market. Short-term rental means simply the properties are always furnished, they are well maintained, look great, have all the things you need to stay and live in for 3+ nights. So it's not the sort of one-nighter where you still like go to a hotel and it's all great, just super convenient. But sort of when you stay 3, 4, 5 nights somewhere, or a couple of weeks, you simply want to have a few things to feel a bit more home. And that's what we offer on the guest side for people to feel comfortable staying somewhere for a few nights under the consistency of a brand.
Yeah, so you're not the people that actually do the letting of the property. That might be Airbnb, or might be somebody else, or anybody in the travel business, okay? But what you do is you make sure that the property that, say, an investor or an individual is renting out through Airbnb is prepared properly for these short-term stays, yeah?
Almost. So we are also, it's a bit, when you look at our hotel would list on Booking.com or Expedia, but also themselves. So you can book a MadeComfy directly or via Airbnb or Booking.com. We try to really be where people feel they would like to book, and that really is the main focus there. Not to force people to book directly or through one channel, but where they feel comfortable to book.
Okay. Well, we talked about innovation, and we've talked a little bit about disruptor, and it's impossible to have a more disruptive situation, as I said before, than we do have at the moment. So you're obviously from Germany originally. How long have you been in Australia?
Well, you wouldn't get this from my accent, but it's 12 years.
12 years. Well, I'm glad you kept your German accents, okay? But you know, good international experience, seeing how things work in Germany and then seeing how things work here in Australia. And you've got some first-hand experience and perspective on what this unprecedented disruption has meant to the travel industry as a whole, but also for MadeComfy. And how are we going to manage out of this? And I'd be keen to know what sort of comments you've got to that.
That's a big question here. I think everyone in travel was impacted, especially from it came out of nothing, and no one really, like, it was always possible, but no one really planned for something like that. When we look at occupancy rates dropping down to almost zero at certain times. The one thing, the three things we really sort of took away from that is number one is really don't focus on the things you can't change. It is, as a business owner or employee or whatever that is in life, I think it can be so overwhelming that you feel sort of so exposed and trying to find windmills. So that's the one thing. The second one is really try to see the positive thing. The world will always go on. Whatever crisis we went through, there's always an afterwards, and focus really on that, and then literally connect the two dots. How do you get there from where you are today? And that's, if you keep that in mind, you will likely find your disruption in your space or your innovation that will get you to that. But it's important you connect those two dots.
But how do you maintain that enthusiasm, when the bank is on the phone saying we need you to clear the overdraft, and the landlord is on saying, oh, come on, I need you to pay the rent for the shop or the office or whatever. How do you actually maintain this amazing calm and resilience in the face of such disruption?
Breathe.
Yeah. Important, yeah.
Breathe. You need to have some capacity for this. So it's important you sleep. It's important you look after yourself. So you add your maximum capacity, because it is a highly stressful situation that is very long. It is now 7 months in, and we still don't know when it's going to end. Having people you can talk with, like I can talk about my personal experience, having someone to talk with, to challenge thoughts, to really focus on the positives. Again, don't get distracted by the things you can't change. What I've seen is everyone, especially in Australia, everyone is trying to help. So when we look at our landlord in the office, our customers, like, if you communicate and you are open and you're transparent and you say, look, this is where I stand and I just can't do that, but I can do that, and I will give you my commitment, my word, and I'm super transparent, people will help you. And it's the same thing with others, to help others as well and not be really by the rule book here. And I think then you just take this step by step, agreement by agreement, bank by bank, and if you are transparent and a great communicator, you will get support, and not giving up either. I think that's important.
Or even if you're not a great communicator, finding somebody that you know and you trust that is a great communicator and that can help you through that. And getting that adaptability and resilience, I think, is important. But, you uncovered some growth opportunities for MadeComfy, and you found a way to support your workers during the early stages of the pandemic, when people were really, no idea what was happening. If I'd have said to you in January that this is the situation we'd be in now, or even in the early stages of the pandemic, nobody would have believed us. But how did you uncover these growth opportunities, and what did you do to support your workers during the early stages of the pandemic?
I mean, like, we have a bit of an advantage as a startup or scale up. You go through some of those crises before that are just difficult, and you hit a wall. And so we had, I think, a bit of an unfair advantage here to say, okay, how do we deal with that? And just let's wrestle that down. The main one was, like, we learned that very early to always be true to our values and who we are, and to act like that. And the other thing I always try to do is, whatever decision we make, you have to be able to look into the mirror, or if it appears on the front page of a newspaper, you have to be fully comfortable with that. So that's the ethical bit that is super important, that you say you've tried and done anything you could. We didn't know what to do to start with. We had to reduce our OPEX by 60%, and the easy one is to just like let most of the people go. But that was not an option, because also to rebound and then to identify those opportunities, you need, especially our team, that is like highly skilled, trained, and they're just super clever and motivated. We needed them. So finding then ways to keep everyone with you, again, through communication. We had a lot of our team that went to part-time, reduced hours, try to pull anything you can. And yeah, it's, well, I'm a bit speechless here is because it was so difficult.
It's very emotive stuff, and I mean, it's very, very difficult too. But you know, I think as well, what you're saying is that communication is so important, and so many people have just been. I couldn't believe it how people have been laid off by email. You know, that bosses don't have and owners of businesses don't have the guts to sit down with somebody and explain what's going on. And you know, the other thing is asking them for their advice. You know, I've got a friend who's sat down with all his staff and said, look, guys, this is the situation. What would you do? You know, what can we do? Can you suggest something? And people volunteered to go part-time and work half their normal roster of work, you know. And then people offered to take a month's holiday and said, look, I'll take a month's holiday. I don't need to be paid. I've got a bit of cash in the bank. You've been nice to me. You've been good to me for so long, you know.
100%.
You know, it's the only way to do it. And I think for small businesses, and like you say, for you as a sort of developing startup, you were a startup once, but you come through lots of these. I always say to people in my professional career, I said, don't always, well, don't give me problems. I don't believe there are problems. They're only challenges, and we need to overcome them. And when you come to me with a challenge, come to me with a solution as well. You know, it doesn't matter whether it's a good solution or a bad solution, but at least you've thought about it, and people think differently. So here we are, right? We are 7 months into this pandemic. The tourism industry and the travel industry is decimated. The travel, particularly outbound international travel, is an absolute disaster, okay? Inbound international travel the same way, okay? We hear reports of Queensland tourism businesses, for example, doing really well with visitors from Queensland and so on. New South Wales, maybe, I don't know what the situation is so much, but what are your expectations of travel and tourism, you know, going forward post this pandemic and even into 2021, even if we get a vaccine? What's your feeling about that? And from not just from a MadeComfy perspective, which is important, but also I'm sure you're a bright enough guy to have thought about, you know, other scenarios.
Look, the thing that we sort of looked at the very beginning is how long will this take, and how much will this change behavior, and our take was quite early that it will take a year or two to go through, and it will change people's behavior. And behavior is like anything from how they do meetings, how they communicate with people, how they travel, why they travel, how they book, what is important for them. I listened to a really great talk today by the segment head of Google for travel, where she said that safety and flexibility is the new brand and the price is the new loyalty.
Yes.
So that's also fairly very early like indication of what is ahead of us. But it means that if you have a business with a large loyalty group, don't take that for granted. And think about why would people like book with you going forward, and the whole impact on perceived safety, on perceived flexibility and value add is something that is not just a face mask and some hand sanitizer. It is that whole package that people need to feel comfortable with, and you need to think, no matter what you do, how do you position your company in that well? Now the great thing is like, because everyone is sort of wrestling with this, in that lies the opportunity for any kind of like individual even to do something great that can evolve to something big. You do much easier in those days and those times than when everything is booming, when simply whoever has the most money wins. Now you can be clever, innovative, it can be just a bit different and be very, very close to those travelers and customers and see how you solve that problem that is ahead of them, not you, but those people that would love to book. Because one thing is clear: everyone can't wait to travel for whatever reason, for family reasons, leisure reasons. Travel is definitely not dead, but it's going to be different for a while.
It is going to be different. I think one of the other things that struck me a lot during this is that how people have understood and reformed generosity. You know, in some ways, I mean, particularly on a personal level, you know, that they realize that people need help. And the second part is the sort of honesty part of it as well. And the other one, I think, is that people have learned, you know, don't burn bridges, because you burn bridges and all of a sudden you need help and you need to go to somebody that you burnt a bridge with. It's very, very hard. So I think a lot of compassion has come out of all this. And it's hard to believe, I suppose, when you know how many people are unemployed and so on. But for the travel and tourism industry, it's very difficult. I mean, I interviewed a very senior member of the travel and tourism industry this morning in the cruise space. He's the managing director of CLIA, which is the Cruise Lines International Association. And, you know, cruise ships can't come into Australia. They can't leave Australia. There's tens of thousands of people who are laid off because of it just in Australia alone, and something like 26,000 travel agents dependent on tourism, dependent on cruising. So that's a difficult situation to be in. And how do you actually deal with this? Well, it's through compassion. They've come up with a new discount scheme and so on. But tell me, just for your business now, for MadeComfy, how are you managing your business now going forward, looking forward, and hopefully that things start opening up and people start traveling and start staying in your properties?
Well, for us, it's about how do we cater for those needs around safety, security, around flexibility, and the reason people travel. So we've been working for the last now 4 months on preparing for 2021. At the moment, like we simply focus on keeping our properties sort of filled. We're doing well in New South Wales. We're doing really, really good in Queensland. Melbourne, of course, is very low, but focusing on that. And we know that that what we offer itself, a short-term rental, self-contained property, is tailored towards what people perceive as a place they would like to stay in, where you can cook, you can work in, you don't have to expose yourself too much. So, but how do we take the perception of an Airbnb, or when you book it on Booking.com, where you have like a large fluctuation of standards and quality, how do you take that away and say, when you book XYZ, like if you book a MadeComfy, you know what you get, and the concern that you have before is sort of taken off. And the other bit is, of course, the whole logistics side of it. With COVID, contactless check-ins, check-outs is something where we work a lot on, and we are super excited for 2021 from January onwards, but we just don't know what it's going to be like.
No, are bookings looking positive? I mean, are things moving in the right direction?
Yeah, we have in Sydney. I mean, we're quite lucky. We have days with over 85% occupancy.
Wow.
We don't drop below 65% in New South Wales. In Queensland, it is sort of mainly weekends where we are in the 70-80% occupancy space, and then sort of the 50-60 during the week. Melbourne is sort of 30-40%, where we mainly house service workers, essential workers, and we've got agreements with hospitals and things like that to cater for nurses.
So have you had to change your marketing? Because when you think about it now, only Queenslanders can travel and stay in Queensland. So all of a sudden, whereas your marketing before might have been promoting Queensland properties all over Australia, overseas, whatever, nobody can get there. And the same, New South Wales can only go to New South Wales. Melburnians can't go anywhere. South Australia can only be in South Australia, and WA in WA. So have you had to change your marketing to respond to that?
100%. So previously, our bottleneck as a business was having the right properties. Now our bottleneck is guests to book our properties. So our whole sales and marketing team that we kept and didn't let go, we've let them focus on targeting domestic travelers, because we know who they are. They are institutions, people, businesses that we can actually target, and they're really good. Our guys here, the companies too. But we could do that because we made the decision not to let everyone go. We could then, once Shopkeeper kicked in, it helped us to just keep that and take that talent to target that. And we are not seeing those occupancy levels just because we're lucky, but because we were really hyper-focused on our sales and marketing approach into those regional drive-in markets.
So are you optimistic for the future?
The issue is I'm always optimistic. Like I have to be as a founder, but not all the time. I mean, like I really hope that on a government federal level that Australia comes up with a hotspot definition. So by the time there will be another outbreak, it's just a question of when, and that not all borders go up again. Because I think that one thing that we need as businesses in travel, but also consumers to book, is having this confidence that it is not happening again, that all the walls go up. Now we're having all these elections now, and hopefully it is going to be a little bit more sustainable the way it's done. If that is done, I'm very optimistic because of the island situation that we have here. But I'm also very optimistic that a vaccine will come in the next 12 months, maybe not the next, as Donald Trump always says, it's around the corner, it's around the corner. I think still it's 6 months away at least
you mean Donald Trump, the to-be ex-president? Oh, jolly good. We shouldn't go there. Never talk politics.
I never religion, politics. I learned that too.
Work with animals, You know, I think you're spot on. I do think that the hotspot system is the way to go. I don't think that the state should have the control that they have to close off whole areas and whole states arbitrarily, because it doesn't make any sense. It's the hotspot system that works. And that's the most sensible one. And look, having said all that, the state, even, you know, Dan Andrews in Victoria and Anastasia Palaszczuk and so on, they've all done a great job in very difficult circumstances, because the bottom line is they weren't trained to do this. They were never trained to deal with a pandemic. So it's all very easy for the naysayers to say, oh, well, they're hopeless and, you know, all this sort of stuff, you know. But what I say to people is, oh, that's okay. Put your hand up. You go and do the job and see if you'd have done any better. But I agree with you. But look, where can people get more information now about your MadeComfy? You have a website?
Yeah, so if you simply go to madecomfy.com.au, you will see all you need to see about how to, if you have a property or if you're interested on that side. And if you go to MadeComfy/search, you see all our properties to book. And it's very straightforward.
And you've got properties throughout Australia, even here on the Sunshine Coast.
Even up at the Sunshine Coast, we could always have more properties. And like plenty of locations, and they're all lovely and gorgeous. So,
Well, Quirin, look, it's wonderful to talk to a visionary like yourself. Innovation, the disruption, you know, the bottom line today is nothing. I talk about the world before COVID was a continuum of change. People who are not willing to change will never succeed. And, you know, that's what innovation and disruption is all about, is not going with, it's always been this way. I hate that, or we don't do it that way. I used to have a sign in my office, never come in here and say we don't do it that way. So it's lovely to speak to a young guy who's innovative, passionate about what he does, has got a great business, and your optimism and enthusiasm for the tourism industry in Australia, especially having come here to live. And I note as well, I just saw that you love adventurous travel and supporting your daughters to chase their dreams.
Yeah, very important.
Quirin, thank you for your time today and for joining me on eGlobal Travel Media.
John, thank you so much. It was a pleasure. And anytime again. Thank you.
Thank you very much.